It's time for Lefties Losing It. And we're going to start at a place, a sad, miserable place that we have visited many times before, many times, and that is inside the head of Rosie O'Donnell. Driven mad, quite mad with Trump derangement syndrome, that she has now infected her daughter. Her poor 12-year-old autistic non-binary daughter is also raging about Donald Trump.
I'll tell you the truth. My daughter is now saying, damn him, damn Trump, and smashing her hand on the table. And I said, wow, honey, what are you thinking? And she said, he made us move in order for our own safety. And it's now he's destroying the country. You know, listen.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. Jim Acosta, by the way, he's on the left of the screen, I think. It's hard to tell those two apart. Jim seems impressed by Rosie making her own child miserable with anxiety and doomsday rhetoric. Even Rosie knows her daughter thinking like this isn't healthy.
I think to myself, you don't want to give this to her. You know, whatever this thing is of me thinking that I have to somehow stand in defiance of him. No, I don't. Somebody can tap me out, you know. I did 22 years. I don't really need to do anymore. And I don't want my kid to be so affected by it. And, you know, she has autism.
But she recognizes what's going on.
Yes.
No, she doesn't recognise what's going on, Jim Acosta, you absolute delusional clown. That poor child is miserable because of people like you and her mother who have filled her head with nonsense. Talking about misery and nonsense, remember Dave Letterman, the former late-night TV host who kind of looks like the Unabomber these days? Well, here is the man who famously took his mistress on a family vacation with his wife and a young child. Just imagine what sort of human you have to be to do something like that. Well, here's our moral, noble crusader, Dave, having a meltdown because Donald Trump called a reporter piggy. Quite piggy.
Just a wonder of idiocy. It's just fantastic. It knows no bounds.
None.
No, and it's never ending. He's our dictator.
Yeah,
he's not going anywhere.
Now watch as even the Karens there try to wrap up this asinine chat. Dave rants about how Donald Trump's accomplishments are the worst thing humanly imaginable. The dude needs help.
It's fraudulent, as is everything about the regime.
Exactly. The regime is right.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I have to go.
Things happen. Just remember, hey, Piggy, things happen.
Things happen.
Good God.
Don't forget to subscribe and love us.
18 times the worst behavior one has witnessed ever anywhere.
Yeah, and everyone seems fine
Think
with
of the worst thing that you've ever seen humans accomplish. This is so much worse.
Now, if Dave Letterman is that triggered by the word piggy, then imagine the meltdown when he realises that Donald Trump referred to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as, and I quote, seriously retarded. CNN was certainly appalled. Funny how they never get appalled when Republicans are routinely called Nazis and fascists and white supremacists. But don't go insulting the uniquely awful Tim Walz. Here is CNN asking Democrat Senator Amy Klobuchar about the president's comments.
Something else that the president said. He said that Congresswoman Ilhan Omar probably came to the U.S. illegally, mocked the hijab that she wears, and he called your governor, quote, retarded.
These words shouldn't even be repeated by anyone, much less a president of the United States. Again, he goes after people because they look different than him.
Really? He attacked Tim Walz because he looks different than him? It's not that he is a far-left inept governor who earned his nickname Tampon Tim because he put tampons in boys' locker rooms across the state. Not because he's so hopeless that hundreds of Minnesota Department of Human Resources employees accused him of failing to act on widespread fraud and punishing whistleblowers. And when the president was asked earlier today if he regretted his characterisation of Governor Walz as seriously retarded, he had this to say. See if you can detect any regret.
Do you stand by that claim of calling Tim Walz retarded?
Yeah, I think there's something wrong with him. Absolutely, sure.
You don't think that...
You have a problem with it? You know what? I think there's something wrong with him. Anybody that would do what he did, anybody that would allow those people into his state and pay billions of dollars out to Somalia. We give billions of dollars to Somalia. It's not even a country because it doesn't function like a country. It's got a name, but it doesn't function like a country. Yeah, there's something wrong with Walz.
I don't know about you, but he doesn't seem sorry to me. Let's go back to CNN and a fiery debate that has gone viral. Clips of this all over social media. And it involves Katie Miller, a Republican political advisor and wife of Stephen Miller, taking on the hopelessly biased hard-left host, Abby Phillip, who pretends to be a moderate, just a neutral host. You ain't fooling anybody, Abby, least of all Katie Miller.
It's about whether someone like Tucker Carlson, who is a very powerful force in the conservative movement.
You host people on your show all the time who call my husband and myself a Nazi.
That is a different thing.
Excuse me, you have Jennifer Welch on your show very often, and you've never pushed back as she has called my husband a white nationalist.
Hold on.
That is no different than Nick Fuentes going on Tucker Carlson's show. It's not, and you should admit it.
Well, hold on. Wait, hold on. How is it anything similar? It's not remotely similar at all. Nick Fuentes sits around and says that he likes Hitler. How is that similar
to... What does Katie have to do with it? What does she have to do with it? She has nothing to do with it.
Indeed, Abby, Katie Miller has nothing to do with it. And you have not only allowed the likes of the irredeemably awful Jennifer Welch to appear on your program and spew the most hateful rhetoric imaginable, without any pushback, might I add, but you have gone on her podcast. You even went on Joy Reid's podcast and agreed with her insane ramblings. Don't pretend you hold yourself to a high standard. You certainly do not. Now to a poll that didn't get as much attention as it perhaps deserved. It certainly created a lot of online chatter. It was the annual Economist YouGov poll, and it showed support for same-sex marriage has plummeted to 54%. We've now got 33% saying they don't think same-sex marriage should be legal and 13% unsure. Compare that to just a few years ago when polls showed that 70% of Americans supported same-sex marriage. What's behind this drop in support? Well, the lefties are blaming Donald Trump, but our good friend Link Lauren has a more astute explanation.
So the short answer for why support for same-sex marriage has gone down is because us normal gays, us common sense gays, are unfortunately becoming guilty by association, okay? We're being lumped in with all the LGBTQIA R2D2 crap, okay? The most fringe and obscene corners of the LGBT agenda, they're the ones that get the most attention online and on television, and unfortunately, those of us who are normal and don't make being gay our entire personality, we are getting lumped in.
Let's bring in Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, what do you think of that theory that support for same-sex marriage and perhaps even attitudes to trans people has changed because of the manner in which that movement, the LGBTQIA plus movement, behaves and the disproportionate influence they have?
Well, I think there's a lot of truth to that, Rita. If you look at the power that the transgender lobby has in America, it is still really, really, really high. Now, the Trump administration, to their great credit, is trying to crack down on it. But the overwhelming majority of Americans are not down with the transgender agenda. There are any number of polls that bear this up. There's the famous kind of average of the 80%, 20% split when it comes to the question as to whether biological males should compete in women's sports. So yes, I think there's some truth to the notion that the same-sex marriage issue is some sort of collateral damage from that. However, there probably is something more than that going on here as well, Rita. Family life in America is not currently going well. Birth rates just continue to plummet and to plummet. And to be clear, that is primarily not attributable to same-sex marriage. I say that, by the way, as someone who is a religious Jew and opposes same-sex marriage. So I oppose it. I don't think that it is the number one culprit when it comes to plummeting birth rates in America or anything like that. But I think that there are a lot of Americans who are kind of much more generally just looking around at the burnt rubble of family life, which has really taken a tremendous beating over the past 40, 50, 60 years. It's a one-word downway ratchet there, and they're kind of looking for answers, grasping at straws, if you will. And the fact that this decision came out about 10 years ago at the Supreme Court is something of low-hanging fruit. So I think that there's part of that going on there, but I think what we just heard from Link Lauren is probably the number one factor. I would probably agree with that as well, yes.